Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to Freedom Speak, a space for real conversation with artists and thinkers who want to break the silence and tell the truth. I'm your host, João Macongo, writer and thinker. Today, we're going to continue the reflection from the Black Book, dive deep into a painful but necessary conversation, necessary topic. Why do so many African leaders betray their own people after gaining power? We're going to drive from Kenya to Angola, from Uganda to the rest of the continent. What's happened between the promise made before the election and the oppressor after taking the office? This is going to be our topic of the third episode on the freedom and the freedom speak, the illusion of the people. Why people keep trusting in this in African leaders. Many African leaders raised using the voice of people. We will free you. We will fight for you. We will change everything. We will give you education. We will do, as I say in Black Book, freedom without awareness is decoration. Thinking then you are free, while your hands and your mind still in shade, still in a prison. Free power, they act like servant. Post power, they behave like king. Example, in Angola, political elite live extremely luxury, while everyday people struggle without water, without education. People eating in the garbage and container. Uganda, Yoweri Museveni promised, I'm going to restore the democracy. I hate the leader who remain in power for so many years. After the guys take power, Yoweri Museveni, quote, today he's in power. 40 years, Yoweri Museveni say, quotation, I hate leader who stayed too long in power. Now, 40 years ago, Yoweri Museveni is still in power. Now he's trying to find a way to put his son in power in Uganda. Oppression against opposition leader still ongoing in Uganda. Arbitrary imprisonment in Uganda. In Angola, people eating in a container every day when political elite living extremely in luxury, giving donation to the foreigners country in Europe, in America, and everywhere you can imagine. This is happening in 2025. People eat in container. Kids die in hospital without medication. This is the Africa you want to fight for. This is the Africa you want to free for. But before you starting the fight, discipline your steps. How you gonna discipline your steps is knowing the truth, learning from the real people, reading books, real books. Don't trust too much in newspapers. Don't trust too much in show you see on TV and internet about Africa. Most of them, they're lying to you. Proud son of the motherland. And then I'm right here. I wrote this Black Book to help you to understand the basics of the struggle of the Black people or the African people. When you see here, many people, they have a lot of story to tell. They have a lot to show to the world. And they can't because their mind still in a prison against all the violence they live. But this is a fight against day by day. Can you imagine then everything they say? The most of political leaders before they take power, they're going to say we're going to bring back the democracy, we're going to bring back the freedom, we're going to build the education system, we're going to fight up against corruption for freedom. But when they take power, they become really what they was going to fight for. That is incredible. Most of the time, when they're saying they're going to fight against corruption, be wary because they're going to become the most corrupt. When they're saying they're going to fight for freedom, they're going to cut the news, they're going to fight and imprison the opposite leader. This has happened in Africa every single day. If you want really to fight for Africa, you need to listen, watch, and see the real owner of African power, who they are, where they are. As I say, always, even in a black book, I write it. Most of the African political are not truly independent. Talk about neocolonialism. Decisions often are made in Washington, Paris, Beijing, not in Nairobi or Rwanda. He who feeds you control your appetites. He who arms you owns your silence. Gonna give you example. FME, World Bank, funding the men's cuts bags and social program. Chinese mega projects looks like development, but behind that often driving nation in debt, because in the future they're going to own freedom, they're going to own land, they're going to own power, and then control the system, maintain the system. When the leaders are African leader, they can do anything. People or that organization, they are in the power of the African continent. If you want to fight, if you want to help Africa to become this big continent you dream for, or we dream for, you need to listen to real story. Read books, read non-fiction books. Like, so African leader are just like managing the system, like building the system, maintaining the system against their own people, preserving the system against their own people. Mental slavery and power. Mindset, slave mindset and free body. You just amplify your confusion. You can understand who you are. Even if you gain power, if you still confused about who you are or who you want to become, you're going to do the same thing. These people are there in control and the command of the most of African country. They're doing. That's why we see, even in most of the countries, the opposite leader, when they take power, they confuse, they become the same thing they was fighting against. Look at the Senegal. The president of Senegal, opposition leader, young man, we trust in him. We were saying, oh, he's going to fight back. He's going to fight back against the system. He's going to fight back against the system. Now, this is the result we have. This is the result we have. They adopt the languages, dress, and value of the colonizers, not the people. Example, Kenya president was against the regime and power. But soon as he get the power, what we seeing right now, like expensive parade, while the young still unemployed. The hospital is still empty without medication. People are dying every single day. What we seeing, he was the opposite leader fighting against the system. What he's doing, nothing. Oppressing freedom, fighting people who want to fight against the oppressor system. He is building. That is the Africa you want to fight for. That is the Africa we want to fight for. What we're seeing is power without purpose in Kenya. Before you get in this fight, you need to understand where you are, how you can even help to break down the system. What happens when leaders turn against their own people? What's happened is then mistrust in politics, break education system, refugees crisis, young migration and brain everywhere from the continent to the world, freely driving the brain mindset from the continent, because people don't trust anymore in the system, because people don't trust anymore in the politicians. Everything is happening out there is prepare, is study, and then is implement day by day. If you want to fight against the system, if you want to help continent, united the continent, like as I say in the black book, you need to understand first what is the real pain behind African people. What is the real pain in African continent? Because you cannot build a future with a people who dreams were destroyed by their own heroes. Because there's people, there's leaders of opposition. Yesterday, they sell dream to the young mind. They sell dream to the African. And then we trust them. And then we give them chance to lead us. But when we see they was doing exactly what they were saying they're going to fight against. Warning is that the first weapon is checks and balance. How are we gonna bring checks and balance to the system? So we need to start study. We need to invest. We need to study our history first, to don't forget who we are, where we're coming from. If we understand where we're coming from, but we need to understand at the same time, the history don't change the future. It just remind us where we're coming from, but the history don't change the future. We need invest in real education. When I'm saying real education, I'm saying the technology. I'm talking about robotica. I'm talking about agronomy. I'm talking about architecture. I'm talking about medicine. I'm talking about business. I'm talking about manufacturing. I'm talking about development in real. I'm talking about employing a neo generation, opening up the media, real media, without praising, without criticizing the critical mind of thinking. That is the only way we can fight against the system. But how are we gonna do that? This is the really big question behind this episode. We need to find out together how we can. But what I'm trying to give you is, from this episode, is the problem we have in the continent. I know a lot of people, they are so excited to go back to Africa. They are so excited to learn about Africa, but they don't want to learn about Africa from the basics. What is the pain behind this immigration crisis coming from Africa? What is the real problem behind that? But they're talking about helping, they're talking about bringing money, they're talking about bringing the project, but they don't want to understand the basics of the real problem is driving people out of the continent. We have a lot of problem out there, but I'm going to try to break down step by step and easily, one by one, to see if we can find a platform where we can drive conversation and to understand, because we need to build a leadership who serve, who push strong civic education, like support for independent thinkers and artists and creators and all this kind of stuff we need, like we have in Western world. We all this this kind of development. Africa have a lot to do. Africa have a lot to do. I'm not going to break everything today down, but this is the little introduction in episode 3 I want to give you. Thank you again for being there. Thank you for listening, and thank you in advance for sharing the 3rd episode of Freedom Speak. Please don't forget to subscribe if you're watching us from YouTube. Don't forget to follow us Substack and Facebook, Instagram and TikTok and many other platforms. Don't forget, if you want to understand, to help Africa for somehow, you need starting reading the Black Book. The Black Book, you can find the Black Book in platforms like Amazon, Kobo, Google Books, Apple Books as well. Thank you again for being there, and peace. Take care. God bless you. God bless our project. See you in the next one. Goodbye for now.